Welcome back. You're listening to My Conscious Dad right here on your hometown station, 20 KHTS. Today we are talking about New Year's commitments. Before we went on the break, we kind of jumped on to a different topic, and we were talking about enabling your kids. Since we're just jumping right back into it, I think that would be a really, really, really good New Year's commitment to commit to not enabling them, or maybe enabling them a little bit less.
Yeah, I think, and we've had different shows about enabling and how to really support your kids. That would be an excellent commitment, is to how to wean my son or daughter off of needing me so much, where we're codependent. I think that's a big one, because if you have young adults or teenage kids, your job, I think, as a parent is really to set them up to win in the real world. I tell a lot of my clients that as a mom or a dad, your job is to create a fake world inside of your home to test your kids to see how they're going to interact and the choices they're going to make out in the real world. That's why we do the whole consequence thing with our kids in our home, because when they get out into the real world, they're going to have to face consequences for some of the choices they make that don't follow the law or follow along with everyone else. And the consequence out in the real world is jail or injury or death. And that's what you're trying to teach them in your own world, in your own family, inside of the four walls in your own house. So you have to really kind of set them up and develop them to be mature and emotionally intelligent kids that can be mindful and self-reflect and make smarter decisions. So when they do hit the real world out there, that they fly the coop, they're out there with a good mindset.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I can see this happening to parents. I know some parents like the enabling their kid because they love feeling needed and they love being codependent. But there's other parents who are, just unconsciously doing it, and eventually when their kid hits that certain age, 18, 20, 25, 30, they're still living in their house and they're still using their money and eating their food, and they kind of flip on them and say, can't you go out? Can't you start your own life? Can't you, but they can't, because you didn't set them up that way. You didn't raise them that way or set them up to win. What about those parents? Are parents actually doing that? Or is it more so like they like it because they like feeling needed, and then they just pretend to complain about it?
Well, that's the whole setup for codependency. Somebody can't be dependent if there's not someone else on the other end that needs to be needed. So if you have a kid that is needy, well, the other partner, with your mom or your dad, or one of them, has to be needed for the codependency to take place. So that behavior pattern, that dysfunctional way of having a relationship, doesn't set your child up to be able to develop the solid foundation that they need to be able to be out in the world and navigate all the challenges that the world's going to throw at them. It's just, that's common sense. For mindful parents, for parents that are conscious, parents that are open and willing to learn that for themselves. And that's why we're having this dialogue, is hopefully by opening up that topic and talking about it, that a parent's listening going, oh my God, I never really thought about it like that, or never saw it like that. So, and there will be some parents that are listening going, nope, you're hitting it right on. That's me in a nutshell. Is since my kid was born, I never really worked on myself or figured out who I am internally. And so I guess I've always needed to be needed. And a lot of times I'll have some of the moms, when I'm coaching them, a lot of times they'll be honest enough to reveal to me that their whole life they've been a mom. And when their kids grow up and go to college, they don't know who they are. They've lost their sense of purpose because they've never realized that there was a hidden purpose within them the whole time that wasn't just a mom. So now when your kids outgrow you and you're not needed anymore, you feel lonely, you feel lost, you feel like, you feel sad, you get depressed, you get on medication, because everything that you've designed yourself to be was being needed by a child or being needed by your husband. And once those factors are gone and they've developed and moved on, now you're sitting there going, oh my God, what do I do with my life? Well, what a lot of people do is they now go find someone else that needs to be needed. They take on some other person to need them so that they can kind of enable them. And that's that that's that kind of relationship. And if you're in one of those, I'm hoping you're listening and identifying, or have the courage to say, yeah, I'm one of those. But not just acknowledging it, but looking at what are the prices I'm paying and my kids are paying because I'm that type of person. Well, I will give you everything in the kitchen sink just so that you continue to keep coming back to my well and keep drinking from my water well.
And are those the kids who grow up being the enablee, I guess, do they ever grow up to be the enabler, or are they just always going to be in relationships where they're the enablee?
They're going to be takers. And so what will happen is they will find the spouse that is a giver, and they will suck them dry from everything they got until they can't get any more from them. And then they'll divorce or find reasons why that relationship didn't work. And they'll go on and find other people that are givers, and they'll keep taking. I mean, we can call the show Give or Taker, because in life there are givers and there are takers, and they attract each other. A giver can't be with other givers because, and I'm talking about unconscious kind of relationships. Mm-hmm. You can have two conscious givers be in a relationship, and it's the most extraordinary relationship I've ever seen. In fact, to me, that's what extraordinary relationships are. It's two conscious people that are emotionally healthy, 100% whole and complete, and all they do is give to each other. There actually isn't any taking. There's giving and receiving. That's a healthy relationship. An unhealthy is giving and taking, because one's giving and the other one just keeps taking. But imagine having a relationship where you're both conscious, you're both whole and complete, both of your wells are overflowing, so you're giving to each other from overflow. It's an extraordinary experience to be in a relationship like that.
So I want to jump back to our show topic and ask you, what is... I know you gave me like 10 or 15 before the show started, but give me your top commitment for this new year.
I think my commitment is to continue to keep growing, to continue to keep finding more ways of being loving and vulnerable. I'm always constantly working on being more vulnerable, bringing my walls down, letting people in, being more trusting, believing in people, believing in humanity. And my commitment is to continue to keep making a difference, to continue to keep trusting my internal spiritual voice and keep sharing that, keep trusting that it creates value for people, that people are listening. Because, I got the ego there that's always chattering in the back going, no one's listening, or, based on results, how much of a difference are you making? So that mental chatter, I got to keep shutting down all the time. And that's a constant process. So for me, I, like you, don't believe in New Year's resolutions, because I believe we should always be having some kind of a vision to keep continuing to be committed to creating. So it shouldn't be a once a year, let me stop and reflect. You should be reflecting every day or every couple of days, checking in what's working, what's not working. That's the conscious mindset, is always moving forward and self-evaluating and moving forward. But to answer your question, my commitment is to continue to keep evolving, to keep being the example, to keep shining my own light so that other people can recognize their own light in my light. So it's to keep making a difference in the world.
Yeah, I like yours. I
know you were looking for one specific, but I can't narrow it down to one.
You tricked me. I said one. No, but I like yours. I'll probably steal it and do that one too.
Which one? All of them?
All of them. Just all 17 of them. No, but if you're listening and you're on Facebook, comment on our Facebook Live.
Actually, Joe Palmer is telling me, I like the giver taker. Tell us more about receiving. So receiving is that you're operating from overflow, right? You love yourself, you accept yourself, and so you're whole and complete, and you're a total giver. And when you're giving out to other people and you're being in contribution from an authentic, powerful place, and you're operating from abundance, what happens is that giving starts to come back to you. And when it comes back to you, it's really you recognizing that you're giving back to yourself. And so you're receiving with gratitude, and you're receiving, and you're also allowing yourself to receive a gift from someone else. I don't know if you've ever heard, sometimes people will offer you a drink of water, or, hey, I want to come over and make a dinner for you, or, hey, if you're not feeling well, let me bring some food over to you. What's the common response when somebody wants to go the extra mile to help you or to give to you? What's the common response people do?
No, thank you.
No, thank you. Or I appreciate that, but it's not necessary. Now, can that be taking?
Yeah, you're taking that opportunity away from them. Yeah.
What opportunity are you taking away from them?
To help you or to give, to support someone.
That's right.
Whatever.
So if I'm a giver and you're not feeling well and I go, hey, I've just made some soup and I got a bunch of it. I want to bring some over to you. Out of your not wanting to trouble me or have me go out of the way, and you say no because you don't want to be a burden on me, you're actually being a taker in that moment. You're taking away the opportunity for me to be a giver to you, to pay back to you all the times that you've listened to me or you've helped me out, or if I needed a ride, or every time you've been there for me. This is my way, whether it's conscious or unconscious, to give back to you. And by you not allowing yourself to receive that gift, you end up becoming a taker from me. You're robbing me that opportunity to give to you. And this was one of the hardest lessons that I had to learn. And it came in a way of having a mentor one day. He flat out told me, because he was trying to help me with something. I go, no, I got it. And he goes, wow, he goes, you're really stubborn. And I looked at him and I was quiet. And he goes, not only are you stubborn, but you're a taker. And I went, excuse me? And he goes, you're a taker. And he was, and I know, I love the guy to death. His name is Mick Morantine. He passed away not too long ago, but he made such a profound impact for me in that day because he was courageous enough to give me that feedback. And he looked at me dead in the eyes and he goes, you're becoming a taker from me. You're not giving me the opportunity to be in service to you for everything that you've done for me. And that was the biggest life lesson for me in that moment as a young man, to realize that receiving is an honor. And if you can choose to see that perception as accepting people's gifts as receiving, it's part of the process. And sorry, I'm getting emotional because I think about this man and what kind of difference he made for me. But that's what receiving means to me, is giving the other person the honor of having that space to know what it's like to be a giver.
Yeah, one of the things I wanted to share too is the example of the buckets. What's one of my favorite, I should say, I love to coach my friends with this example. And it's because I have some friends who are givers and some friends who are takers, and especially the givers, they give from an empty bucket sometimes. And I'll explain what that means. It's if you have a bucket and it's you and it's full of water, you can give. You have
love water.
Yeah, you have all this love water to give away. But if it's empty or it's halfway full and people are giving to you, you're letting them fill you up, or you're allowing them to fill you up. You're being filled by something else or someone else. And if you're full and you're receiving love water, you're just overflowing now. So you're not expecting somebody to fill you up. And so I always try to tell everybody, and including myself, I say it so that I can hear it, is to give from overflow. And this is something that I obviously learned from you, is not giving everything you have, just giving whatever's extra, whatever's left over, and vice versa, receiving whatever is going to overflow you, not what's going to fill you up.
Yeah, I think the biggest realization is realizing that giving and receiving is a two-way street, and it has to be like a circle. And if you stop the circle, it dies. It was probably about a week ago, right before Christmas, maybe it was even Christmas Eve in the daytime, I had been running around from meeting to meeting, and I realized I hadn't eaten in 5 hours. And so I stopped off at a fast food place. I cheated. I had a cheat day, but I stopped off and I pulled in and gave my order, got up to the window, and I went to go pay, and the guy that was taking the money, he had his little Santa hat on, and he goes, "Oh, your meal is free." And I said, "Excuse me?" And he goes, "Yeah, the person in front of you paid." And I go, "What?" And he goes, "Yeah, someone in front of you paid. I guess someone else paid in front of them for them, so they paid for you." And in the moment, I go, well, then let's keep the sucker rolling. And so I go, how much is the guy behind me? So I paid for him behind. And I thought that it was the first time I've ever experienced that before. And I thought that was the most amazing. I was like, that made my whole day. Like, I'm driving home thinking to myself how long that went on. That's a giving and receiving thing. And all it takes is one person to not operate from a full bucket or operate from abundance or not coming from overflow and deciding that there's just going to stop. Now, obviously, if you look behind you and you see a van full of kids, a whole soccer team, you're going to go, let me go and check my account real quick. But you know, that's kind of the essence that I wanted to talk about is giving and receiving is a two-way street, and it has to keep going, has to, you know, and I know you have friends and I have friends that we can look back, or even, you know, family members that we look back and go, you know, me and Tom, we have that relationship, or me and Mike, we have that relationship, or Christina and I, we think like that. It's like, you know, we don't take count of who gave who what, and there's no score. It's just it's a thing that we have. Me and Jerry, that's kind of like our relationship. You know, it's kind of like we both keep giving from a full bucket, and I mean, we're overflowing. The giving just never stops, and it's such an incredible relationship to have when you operate from overflow and you're just giving from a healthy place. And I don't mind receiving because it's part of the process. It's giving the other person the opportunity to be in contribution to you as well.
And when you say giving from a healthy place, what does that look like? What's giving from an unhealthy place?
I think when you're giving from an unhealthy place, you're giving from a place of expecting something back. You're giving from needing approval, needing to be validated. There's a lot of people out there that have associated giving with being fulfilled. Like, I don't know if you've ever received a gift from somebody and then you thank them, and then you know, a couple hours later, they're like, "So, how is it? Are you using it?" And so they're in little ways they're bringing it up again to get a second thank you, and then all of a sudden, you know, a week later, 2 weeks later, they're giving it to you again. It's like, "Oh, you know, I want to give this to you," and then later on, you find out they asked so-and-so, "Hey, is Alex using that stuff, or is Jazmine?" And it's kind of like you and your friend are like, I think that they're giving away because it's a way to be acknowledged, to be thanked. Maybe they grew up in a home where they were never thanked or appreciated, and so now they give from an unhealthy place because they're in need of somebody validating or somebody just looking at them saying thank you. So they will go above and beyond. They will swipe their credit card and go max out their credit cards just for approval, just to get you to like them. How would you feel like if you had a friend that was always buying you all the time, and it was a little bit like overkill? It's like, come on, like, I get the whole giving and receiving thing, but you're now just trying to buy my friendship. You're trying to buy my approval. That could be unhealthy. Yeah,
and sometimes it could make you feel like you owe them something, and I don't like that feeling of owing somebody because they did something for me.
Right, but what I'm saying is that somebody that you can tell when someone crosses the line a little bit more, where it's like every week they're doing something, or they're waiting for opportunities to find where you're struggling so they can come in and save the day. Like, you know, dun, 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 you need my help, I'm here. Here's my credit card, and it's kind of like this, you know, this desire and need to be needed and to be there, to be the rescuer. I'm sure you have friends or family members that you could probably categorize them as they're the rescuer. They come in all the time to rescue me, and then they kind of linger around waiting for the thank you. Or they come back out of the room later on because you're here, and they're like, "Oh, so how are those new, you know, boots that I gave you?" Or, you know, they're bringing it up, and it's like I've thanked you 5 or 6 times already, and now it's kind of like, okay, I can tell now that you're giving from a place of needing something from me, needing the validation and feel important, and that you matter, and that you're important in my life.
Yeah. So giving then from a healthy place is just giving the overflow that we were talking about.
Giving from a healthy place is giving unconditionally. It's like, I give you this gift, and when the gift is given, I'm off it. I don't even. It's like I want you to have this because in the moment, this is a reflection of how much I care about you and how much I want you to win, or how much, I know something matters to you and I want to be a part of that. And then you're off of it. You're moving on to what's next. You're not hanging on like you're attached to a string waiting to see when it comes back. Gift giving, or giving in general should be unconditional. I give it with no strings attached. I give it because it's a way for me to reflect who I am for you. It's a way for me to express myself, to express my love. It's to express my gratitude. Giving should be more of an expression rather than giving it with some kind of a hidden agenda or something that's attached to it, like an expectation.
And if this year I decide that my commitment is going to be more of a giver instead of a taker, where should I start? Or what's some I guess a little tip?
I think the good place to start with authenticity. So be an authentic gift giver. If you're going to give from an authentic, loving, compassionate place, and start with the people that really make a difference for you and the people that are healthy minded. Start with them first. Because if you start giving to the people that are unhealthy, you could be part of their problem, and you can kind of be the part. It's like giving you're not going to give drugs to a drug dealer or a druggee. You're not going to give alcohol to an alcoholic. Hey, I'm not using my alcohol no more. You can have it all.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You need to support them. So start there and then work your way up the ladder and kind of progress like that.
We have to take a quick break, but stay tuned for more of My Conscious Dad right here on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. Welcome back to My Conscious Dad. Right here on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. I blanked for a second.
That's all right. Dramatic pause is always good.
Where am I?
Yeah.
Today we're talking about New Year's commitments. One of the things I wanted to address real quick, you had said earlier, was that you don't necessarily like the term New Year's resolutions. I really liked what you said, so I want to kind of go over the two distinctions again before we head out.
Which two distinctions are you talking about?
New Year's resolutions and New Year's commitments.
So for me, New Year's resolution is more of like a firm decision to either do something or stop doing something. A commitment for me, that distinction is when you're committed. For me, being committed is this is happening no matter what. It's almost like I'm going to put something at stake to have this happen or have it be so. And because I have something at stake, I'm going to be in relationship to that commitment at a whole different level. So here's an example. When I was younger, I used to coach leadership programs for adults. And part of my commitment to them as a coach was to hold them accountable to the commitments that they made to me, that they declared. So for example, if you said, I'm committed to, achieving this one goal, then my job as a coach is to say, great, how many, by when? So what's the result look like, and by what time and what date? And I would literally make you give me a time and a date.
You do that now.
I know I do that now.
When are you going to take out the trash? What time?
And and the reason why I do that is because now out of your mouth, you gave a time and a date. And so because you said it, you now own it. You own it at a whole different level now. But if you said, hey, Dad, I'm going to get this to you by tomorrow. I'm like, oh, okay. It's so general that it just goes in the back burner, and it's a 20% chance it's going to happen. If you said, hey, Dad, I'm going to bring you back that tool you let me, use, and I go, okay, great, when are you going to bring it? And then now you're rolling your eyes going, tomorrow? Okay, great, what time? I guess 7 o'clock? Okay, awesome. I'll hold you accountable to it. Now, you put that on the shelf, is that a 20% or a 90%?
Yeah, 90.
Why?
I don't know.
It's because you gave your word to me. It's like you saying it out of your own mouth is almost like it's like you authored it. You created that commitment. You created that statement. And so now you have to own it. So you're going to own it at 90% versus a blanket statement, a general statement you make to me that I just went one ear and out the other ear. You saw me not be present to you and acknowledge you and hear it and then mark it in my own brain. So you got off the hook. So you're only going to be able to now make that commitment at a 20% level. But I want you to be at a 90%. So I have to do my job and be a great listener, receive the commitment, now ask you by when, so it holds you accountable and you hear yourself say it. Now there's a 90% chance that by 7 p.m., you're going to be walking in the door going, here you go, Dad, I appreciate it.
Yeah, I don't know what the little magic trick is. I guess it's, the universe putting it back on you or something, because it works. I'll put things on the back burner and say, oh, you know what, Dad will understand if I don't do it. But once I give that commitment, when I'm going to do it, but all that, what the consequences are going to be, that's like the worst one, especially as the kid is okay, if I don't do it, I have to do this, which is worse than not doing it. So,
and so my job as a coach or a parent is to hold you accountable to what you say you're going to do. So in order to do that, instead of being the big bully going, you said you were going to do this, the best way to do that is, okay, great. What date are you going to do it, and by what time? Now I can be flexible in there. Well, Friday. Well, how about I get back to you? Now, how about you give me a time now, and then if you need to renegotiate later, you can. But I'm going to get a time and a date from you some way or another, and that's going to lock you in now. It's going to lock you in the 90% commitment level. So now you have a better chance at being your word. That's my job as a dad, is to try to be that for you. If I just go, okay, whatever, whenever, you're going to be loosey-goosey all over the place, and your word is not going to be your bond. Now, how effective are you going to be out in the world with business owners and working with other teams and being a leader in the world if your word is not worth anything? So that's the reason why I do that. And that's a distinction between commitment and resolution. A resolution is a firm decision. A commitment is, here's my blood. I'm inking this with my blood. I'm making a commitment. Now there's something at stake, which is my word. And earlier I was telling you the story about coaching people. When people would ask me or make their declaration, I would have them give me something. One guy gave me keys to his Mercedes Benz. I held his keys for like almost a whole month because he hadn't made his commitment yet. And me and him at the end of the program, we cried together, and he goes, man, that was the most amazing thing you ever done for me. You taught me what it's like to be my word and keep my commitment.
Hey, you know what? That's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're here every Friday from 12 to 1 right here on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS.
Happy New Year's.